Hello and welcome to Move the Line Prop Drop Show. I'm Ryan Noonan, back with my friends to talk about the best way, the most profitable way to bet on NFL football, and that is through player props. Live here, 2 p.m. Eastern every Friday. We're keeping this train rolling all the way through the Super Bowl as well, giving you our favorite player props and taking your questions. So if you're hanging out with us now on YouTube, subscribe so you don't miss a show. Smash the like button for us. Goes a long way in helping us out. And jump in the chat. Let us know what your favorite prop look for Week 16 is. If you want thoughts on a play, feel free to ask. We'll try to get to as many as possible at the end of the show. Joining me here, as always, freezing along with me here in Chicago, where we woke up to a real feel of negative 33 degrees, which I looked, Pat, that's a negative 3 for you guys.
No, cold. That can't be true. Negative 3 is like 26 degrees. Fahrenheit.
Negative 3 is 26 degrees for us?
Yeah.
No, well, the app that I was using, the weather app that I was using was incorrect. So I tried to do the research because I knew you were going to be like, negative 33. What the hell does that mean? But it means it's cold as balls, and you don't want to go anywhere near the windows or outside.
So, Celsius to Fahrenheit conversion. What did you say it was? Negative what? 33.
Oh,
my God. Negative 33 is negative 36 Celsius.
Oh. Well, holy crap, I was way off. But it's cold. It's cold. Negative 10 is the real temperature, and then the wind is brutal. So, Connor, are you surviving?
I mean, barely.
First of all, you're going to Mexico in a couple of weeks. I am very passionately.
2 days.
Yeah, I'm happy for you as a friend to go and experience that. And that time of year, I know you do this every year, but I'm very passively angry about it.
Yeah, I'll be doing some shows from the beach. Maybe get Luis in the background to throw in a prop or two, and yeah, just 2 more days of this hell, and then I'll be escaping, thankfully.
It is. I just did the conversion where I am. It's 56 degrees here.
Oh,
welcome to Canada.
Wow. Yeah, that's kind of what we had last week, which is this. That's part of why it's so hard too. Is we've actually had decent weather. It was just this massive drop in the course of 12 hours yesterday with snow and. Apropos, because it is a very much a weather slate, and I'm sure that'll come into some handicaps here a little bit. But
yeah, but here's the one thing I'll say about that to kick it off. And I saw actually your colleague, TJ Hernandez, tweet out about this, and he's absolutely right, is that the weather is baked into all these numbers already. So if you try to factor it in again, then you're doubling down on something that's already factored in.
Yeah, that's a good point. Double counting can be a problem for sure. And then we know too, like Connor's, I know you got some research and we've done some stuff at 4 for 4 over the years around, cold weather not really mattering, snow not mattering, more so wind, sustained winds and gusty winds.
Yeah. The only thing that the research that we added here, because as we've talked about multiple times on the show, wind only matters over 15 miles per hour, but really matters over 20 miles per hour. We don't really have that too much of that in this slate besides 1 or 2 games. But we have noticed Chris Allen pulled for us pass rate over expectation in games that are single digits, and teams tend to call more runs in those games than passes, compared to their expectation. So that is slightly notable and may not be baked into the numbers, but to Pat's point, they're certainly from an efficiency standpoint baked into a lot of these numbers, especially from a passing perspective. These numbers are low for the most part, and in some spots it may not be warranted.
Well, to look at it too, just to kind of clarify the real weather games that I'm concerned about is the Cleveland Saints game and maybe the Baltimore Atlanta game.
Okay. And I feel like Chicago has 20-something mile per hour winds. Do you think that matters at all? That was something that I had on my list, but I wasn't sure how much it was going to matter.
The front radar I saw was an average around 10 miles per hour with gusts up a little bit higher, but
that's not bad.
I love the over in that game, by the way.
Yeah. I'm into it too, for sure. I think we talked about that on our other show, because I think on the ground they can get it done.
40.5. Are you kidding me? Take my money. And it's juice to the under.
Well, we can take your money. You got more of it to give away because Pat had a massive DraftKings score last week. So congrats to you, sir. Obviously joining us as always, the man from the Mayo Media Network, Pat Mayo himself. So congrats, buddy. Nice little holiday spend, I'm sure, for the kids, if they even know about it.
When they tell you Dallas's defense is good, don't listen to them. That's all I'll say.
Conjuring Lawrence. Also, We want to remind you we have a new YouTube channel as well, 4for4 Bets, unique content over there. So subscribe and check that out too. And there's 2 episodes of Move the Line each week, both available here on YouTube and then in podcast form as well. This is our prop drop show, Wednesday nights, 7:30 Eastern. We have a game preview show where Connor, John Daigle, and myself get more into sides and totals. Connor was referencing, how we were talking about that Chicago game there too. So definitely want to go back and check that out. Also want to let you know, regular season winding down, still like 6-7 weeks of football left to go, but now is the time to scoop up a betting subscription at 4for4. Betting sub gets you access to everything on the site, every sport, article, tool from now through the end of February. That'll cover all your football needs there. Subscriber only Discord is really the place to be. Gets you access to all of our bets as soon as we make them. We have a very active crowd in there too. They help us steam some lines. So it's definitely the place to be. If you're just kind of waiting for the articles to come on the site, you're probably missing the best of the number there, covering NBA, college hoops, MMA. I don't know if are we still covering soccer, Connor, now that the World Cup is over?
It's in the works. Maybe get some EPL going, some Champions League stuff. I think the people seem to like it, so I'm interested to see if that kind of stuff rolls over and anything else. So we'll see.
I know the owner of our company likes betting corner kick props and stuff like that. He told me so. Maybe there's different iterations of the way to bet soccer versus just banging unders, which I imagine is probably pretty profitable. But if you're playing on any pick'em sites as well, Prize Picks, Underdog, Vivid, things of that nature, if you don't have legalized betting in your state, we do have specific channels. We post plays in there as well. John Daigle, TJ Hernandez providing a ton of DFS content. All of that's covered in the betting subscription over at 4for4. Already discounted on the site. If you use promo code NEXTLEVEL, you'll get an additional 25% off. So,
Oh, right, and to throw down on that, Prize Picks has an offer today only, the Friday, their new 6-play. If you go 6 for 6 and you put your entry in on a Friday, it's 33-1.
Yep, I did it. It's awesome. It feels good. Feels like I'm not actually getting ripped off on the odds for once. So it's it felt good to put in that entry.
6-legger. Okay, we'll have to get in there. So yeah, that's Friday only. So definitely check that out. I'll probably try to do my best to put out a 6-legger for you today too. Again, those are free channels that you can get access to by being part of the Discord. So, all right, Connor, let you get started with your first official Week 16 look.
Awesome. I'm going to get started with probably my favorite over of the week here, and that's going to be Dalvin Cook over 76.5 rushing yards. And I like this for multiple reasons here. I think that the Vikings are in a much better off spot running the ball against this Giants team who plays a ton of man and they blitz a ton, number 1 in the league in both categories. And that's something that Kirk Cousins has struggled against generally. Against man coverage, 50% completion rate. Against the blitz, 50% completion rate. And not only that, the Giants are 6th in pressure rate. So I know we got burned on this a little bit with against the Patriots, but Patriots don't really blitz as much. And I think in this spot here, the Giants are just true to what they are in terms of blitzing and playing man. So how do they get around that? Giants, 31st in run DVOA, 30th in run EPA, 31st in explosive run rate allowed. I think that Dalvin Cook sees 20 plus carries, and they've been just getting wrecked on the ground here. They've, allowed a ton of players to go over 100 yards. They've allowed multiple players to go over this 76-yard number. And that's like the scrubs, like Kenyon Drake, rushed for 119 yards. Even Dameon Pierce back in his, heyday, 94 yards. Brian Robinson had around 90 plus yards in 2 matchups. Like if you look at who they played, they were just getting wrecked. So I not only played Dalvin Cook over 76, I played over 80, 90, 100, 110, 125 at alternate odds because if this pans out how I expect it to, Dalvin Cook should have just like a massive, massive day here on the ground.
When you bet an elite player over like this aggressively, it definitely catches my attention. It's hard to argue that it's not a great matchup. I like the laddering of it as well. Pat, what do you have for Dalvin Cook this week?
I have Dalvin Cook at one of my stronger plays on the board. I have his median at 82.5. So, and that's only on 16 carries. So any sort of competitive type of game, or if it's close enough with the Vikings with the lead where they just run on first and second down every single time and don't mix in Madison, those ladders are most definitely in play. Plus, he has that big play potential that we saw against the Colts. I know that was against a softer shell defense with them being up by a gazillion points, but he can break off. We've seen him break off even enough big runs this year that he can, he's one of there's actually a few guys on the slate this week that could challenge like 200 yards rushing, and he's one of them.
For sure.
Yeah. And then that's just, they refuse to not play in close games, right? That's kind of their MO even over the last 2 years. So I don't think we're going to get in a scenario where they blow anyone out. And on the other side too, the Giants continue to just find ways to stay in games too, I don't know really how. It's just a lot of smoke and mirrors, I feel like, but it's happening. We're in week 16, and here we are. I'm never really sure how they ever score, but they tend to win a bunch of ball games. So, Pat, I'm going to catch you off guard here. This is an interesting topic. I want to know what your thoughts are. I don't know if you get into any of the awards markets, but we had a good discussion the other night on our Wednesday show around Coach of the Year. Connor's got a big preseason ticket on Nick Sirianni, the massive favorite right now. Although I think it's closed a little bit compared to where it was. I think he is definitely the odds-on favorite. We talked about how, do you think some other players that are in this market that should be in the mix are probably off market?
So there are two, honestly. Like Dan Campbell has all the buds. He's second in the market. I don't believe that he deserves to win, but who cares what I think? He's 3-1 currently. Sirianni's still minus 200. But the two that I would look at, like if the Jags went out and make the playoffs, Doug Peterson's super live, and he's 10-1. But I still think it's Daboll. I think Daboll actually is the coach of the year. He's doing all of this nice work with the Giants with the biggest bunch of scrubs I've ever seen.
Totally agree. I got down on it this week. I got like 28. I got a little 25 as well.
Down to 16.
I do think it's one of those, I think the award markets in general are really tough because they are so narrative driven. My argument to Connor, while I do again think that Sirianni's in good position to take this home, they did close as the NFC East favorites. I don't think that anyone thought they were going to be like 16-1 or anything like that. So he definitely is exceeding expectations. This Giants team is terrible. There's like the defense is bad. There's no talent on offense. The media drools all over Daboll when you watch games. The Collinsworth was like, they probably had to mop the floor when he was done. Just anytime he got a chance to give anyone credit on the Giants, it was just, oh my God, did you see Daboll, that call? Like they love Daboll. And I just feel like there's enough steam and they're in the playoffs. They lose this week, they still have a 71% chance of making the playoffs. The Giants are like locked in almost to the 6th seed. Whereas like Campbell, to your point, and that was my pushback to Connor, was Campbell, like they have to win out to make the playoffs. He should not be that far apart from some of these other guys. And I think Peterson's a good call out too. So
what do you think about
your man?
Well, what do you think about Shanahan? On his third quarterback, the team is obviously awesome, but Brock Purdy is going out there and playing well. Like, I feel like and they're one of the best teams in the league. So I feel like that is a little bit of an interesting narrative that could catch on with some of the media guys. Any thoughts about him? Like, I feel like that I'm looking ways to cover my ass here because, I'm in deep on Sirianni. Obviously, I think he's still the best here. And if the Eagles win this week against Dallas, which I think they're live to do, it's a lock. It's over. Like, it doesn't matter. It's over. He wins with Minshew. It's over. So,
yeah, he beats Dallas with Minshew. You're good. The only way that I think he loses if they go 0-3 without Hurts. And Hurts probably comes back next week anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. Yeah. But Shanahan would be number 2 on my ballot. Mm-hmm. I just feel like people expect him to be good, and that works against you in this market.
That's why historically, again, I know people don't love Belichick. He's got like 2 Coach of the Years ever. I just can't you really can't convince me that there have been seasons where he didn't get a lot. They had a team, they almost went to the Super Bowl. Rashae Caldwell was their best wide receiver back in like 05, 06. It was not pretty back there. So there are times where it's definitely narrative driven, exceeding expectations. So I'm with you, Connor. I'm cheering for your ticket. It's a nice one. I just think that right now the rest of the market is off. To kind of Pat's point, I do think that Shanahan is viable. I think the Peterson play is a good call, and I think Daboll should be significantly closer to Campbell versus kind of where the market currently is. That's why
for sure. And one last thing here before we hop off, there was a executive poll here that Young and Fearless brought up here in the chat that it was Nick Sirianni led the way with like 8 votes among executives, and then it was Shanahan with like 6, and then Daboll with like 4. So I think if you're going to bet anyone right now, it is probably maybe a sprinkle on Daboll and Shanahan. Hope that the Eagles fall out. And even if they lose this week, maybe, you'll probably get an even better number on Sirianni if you want to kind of like circle back and double back later. So I think that's probably how I'd approach the market right now.
I would also, the people who vote on these awards are the pro football writers.
Right.
So what the executives think and what the writers think are 2 different things.
Very true.
Agreed. Again, you have the New York market narrative and, expectations of the Giants were pretty low coming into the season. And this team is Again, not sure how it's happening, but it continues to happen. So, all right, Pat, first play for you.
Well, just to finish that off, that's also the thing about Dan Campbell as well. Like, if we just reverse ourselves to August, this is where people expected the Lions to be. It's just the path that they took to get here built in these unrealistic expectations of, oh, they're terrible. Oh, and now they're really good. No, this is exactly where the market had them being at, like 6-7, 7-7.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. It's not too far off. So yeah, it's a good call.
I am going with an under to start off with those aforementioned Lions. I got burned on this one week, and then I hit it last week because it played out exactly how I thought it was going to play out, which so rarely happens. But I'm going to go back to the well this week because I actually think the Panthers defense is structured a lot like the Jets defense. It's sort of like the C- version of the Jets defense. But the one thing that they do similarly is they put Sauce Gardner on someone on the outside, and then that guy just doesn't get thrown at the entire game. It's not that different from Carolina when they just put JC Horn on someone and they just don't throw that direction the entire game. And I believe for the second consecutive week that DJ Chark is going to be the guy that gets sacrificed to the elite corner. Just don't throw near him, beat them over the middle. That's how you beat the Panthers in the passing game. So DJ Chark under 33.5 receiving yards. I'm worried he gets us all in one play and makes me look foolish like he did last time or 2 times ago when I brought this up. But he's either like 80 yards or 2 yards, and it feels like more of a 2-yard game than an 80-yard game.
Yeah, this is a play you've been on, Connor, at times in the last couple weeks.
Yeah, we also took Josh Reynolds. I was going back through our show notes. I took Josh Reynolds under last week for basically the same reason because his number was like only 5 yards less. And I was looking it up, like both him and Chark were just going to play on the outside and just get eaten up by the Jets. And that exactly happened. They both just got eaten up. Reynolds didn't even see a target. Looks like Chark over under 2.5 receptions. I mean, any thoughts there? I feel like if you're worried about the one play with Chark, does he even see 3-4 targets?
He may, because they have used him in motion in the red zone a lot.
That's
true. They bring him on the inside and throw him quick little passes. I can see that. And they go for it on 4th down so much that everyone is just selling out to stop Amon-Ra that he could just be standing there by himself. So I'm just trying to fade the deep pass.
Yeah. No, for sure. That makes a ton of sense there. I wonder when they're going to get Jameson Williams more involved too, because he saw a slight trajectory and then just nothing last week. It was just
next year.
Yeah, pretty much. At this point, they just don't seem too interested in getting him going.
I think maybe too, like fits more of an indoor in Detroit thing than them doing stuff where they're not. I think they're really trying to protect and hide Goff as much as they can. And that's a non-weather situation this week. It's going to be really cold there, but I think again, nothing that should impact any of the handicaps. I'm going to start with an under as well. It's moved a little bit versus where it was when we first played yesterday. Taylor Heineke under, looks like DraftKings still has under 190.5 passing yards on Heineke. Looks like that's the best out there. Yeah. Pretty good price on Rivers too. It's moved a little bit. Played it at 190, 198 yesterday. But he's been really bad. And I think they're going to have a really difficult time moving the football here. They're leaning really run heavy over the last couple of weeks with Heineke. They actually haven't had a positive pass rate over expectation since week 5. That was with Carson Wentz. And that's part of it too. There's definitely some grumblings locally within the media there to go back because they technically are currently the 7th seed. The Heineke experience hasn't been great as of late to really kind of not close either one of those Giants games was pretty rough. Again, this Niners defense is tremendous, actually both stopping the run and the pass. If you kind of look at some weighted stuff over the last half of the season, they are by far the best defense in the league and best against the pass. And I do think that there is an angle here where we do see Carson Wentz maybe after a bad second half or bad first half for Heineke. And obviously this number is not accounting for that. So I think that's more than a less than 0% chance of happening if he gets off to a really rough start. So I'm fine with it, even though it's still moved. It's down to where we are. I'm fine with 190.5 on DraftKings on Heineke going under 190. Connor, I think you jumped in with me here.
I did, yes. I think it's a great look. I think that added risk of in-game benching helps. I think the matchup helps. Kind of what we're going to see. Probably see the Niners during the clock here. Probably won't see Heineke be efficient even if he does play the whole game. So there's a ton of outs here. Was very excited when you played that. You tagged me in it. I was not by my computer at the time, so tailed it. I'm on board with that as well. But we did just get like a little push notification here that Cowboys rookie defensive end Sam Williams will not play following a vehicle collision Friday and dealing with concussion neck strain. So brutal, tough there. I don't know if that's what Pat was reacting to, but that's what I just saw pop on my screen at the same time. So
Pat, where are you at on Heineke this week?
I have no real feel for him. I think that the Commanders are going to be weirdly live in this game. And I think a lot of it's going to be Curtis Samuel, dink and dunks over the middle, and then just shots down the field. I just don't think that's what the Niners are going to expect. So I think that's probably the best case for Washington here. Now, if they do stay to script, I think that you come into the game against the Niners knowing you can't run on them. So I think their game plan is going to be completely changed. So it might just be a whole lot of upchucking from Heineke. So I have projected like 240 yards here. So this is a stay away for me.
Yeah, the only thing, even when we saw them play like Atlanta not so long ago, like very much a spot that leads you to like, all right, you can pass on Atlanta. They are,
yeah, but you can run on them too.
Yeah, no, they're terrible. But they didn't, like, they were drastically run heavy. So like even the most inviting spot for you to throw a little bit, they still skewed massively run heavy. So I could see that, but I think they have difficulty doing really anything against the Niners. So and I would love to see, never said this in my life, I'd love to see Carson Wentz play some football in the second half of this game. So all right, Connor, back to you, number 2.
Yeah, I'm going to keep the under train rolling here. I'm going to go with James Conner under. It looks like you're able to get a 72.5 rushing yards at, looks like Rivers right now. There's still some 70s out there at DraftKings and BetMGM. But I mean, basically this spot, I know his usage has been awesome, but 7.5 point underdogs. Trace McSorley is going to get the start. I think Trace McSorley is horrible. I don't think they move the ball very well. So, you know, as big underdogs with McSorley probably not leading consistent drives, basically against a Bucs defense. I mean, I wouldn't say good, but they're above average here. And so I feel like in this spot, this number is just too high, just in general. There's like a lot of outs, whether it's game script, whether it's, you know, inefficiency. So I just think there's multiple outs here on the number for a guy like James Conner that even though he's seeing a ton of work, like it's not, you know, I'm just not sure it's enough here. Like you would need, I mean, for me to feel good about like this, or for me to be scared about going under, like he needs like what 18, 19, 20 carries, which he can get, but I still feel like we might go under at that point.
I had this one on my short list as well, and I had it at 69.5 as the under. So at DraftKings, but I like that call. I see it the same way.
Yeah. Again, the volume concerns are frightening. he's playing almost every down for that team. And I feel like they want to try to hide McSorley early, especially. So if he has any success, he can, you know, if he has a decent first half, it's going to be a tough sweat, but I think the process for it is really sound. So
I think we're going to see a lot of like run, pass, punt, you know, like it's going to be
for sure.
And so, you know, just like early on in the game, it's just a brutal, like McSorley just sucks. Like he's literally was drafted in 2019, 6th round pick, first career start, has come in and mop up duty, played for the Ravens a little bit. And like, I don't know, they tried to use him kind of like as Tyler Huntley sometimes, or just like some, you know, Taysom Hill kind of package quarterback at times, but I just think he's a horrible quarterback. So, you know, I just don't see them moving the ball much at all.
I want to tie on a look to that because it's not a play for me yet. So I want to see more information. Hollywood Brown popped up on the injury report yesterday with a groin injury.
Taken off today, by the way.
Oh, was he? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
I was wanted to see the injury report today. Okay. Because he's up at 46.5, which is probably too many receiving yards anyway in the spot with the volume he saw last week with both Colt McCoy and McSorley in that game. But again, if there's any concerns, obviously when you see midweek injuries, it's not great. Practicing full on Wednesday, limited on Thursday because of that. But like Pat said, practice today, but still maybe a viable play in this matchup with this quarterback.
Why don't we just take Trace McSorley unders?
Where are they at? 190? It's not bad.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a good play too. I guess my only reason was that like I liked Tampa Bay to have a lot of success. So I just feel like they could throw the ball like 50 times. Like, you know, I was worried about the backdoor under, but we've talked about this before. It usually doesn't matter. And he's so bad that doesn't like generally doesn't matter. But like, I would almost rather just play like maybe a Marquise Brown under, but maybe the McSorley unders. I think you would just bomb unders across the board, honestly, with if it is like the run, pass, punt that I'm expecting, then it just won't matter. Like every under will hit.
Is Taysom Hill starting?
That's worth talking about. I know Noonan, we played the over on his rushing yards earlier. I don't know if that was one of your plays. Sorry to, you know, bomb that there, but it's moved up to like 43. I think he could play like 3/4 of the game.
Yeah. I mean, he's going to be involved. He's been involved a lot anyways. At 25 carries the last 4 weeks. And some tough matchups in there. San Francisco, Tampa Bay. And now you have this like one of the places we've all kind of agreed on that the weather does matter. What's going to happen in Cleveland this week with 30 mile per hour sustained with gusts up to 50. No Chris Olave. Like they just have to get kind of wonky with what they're going to do offensively. They were fine doing that last week with David Johnson of all people. So I imagine if they can see an uptick in Connor and I were talking, if we get 9 to 10 Taysom Hill touches, we played the over on 35.5. I still think you can like correlate a same game parlay there, even though it's kind of steamed up a little bit with like Nick Chubb running a bunch and Taysom running a bunch. Even if he doesn't start, I can't imagine he's not heavily involved in the game plan.
Yeah, no, it's and now we got the report I think that Pat saw as well from Nick Underhill, like literally the best Saints beat reporter, saying that he's going to be featured heavily. Nick's a guy that when he reports things like that, he generally knows something else. And like, there's probably more going on there behind just Nick guessing that Taysom Hill is going to be more involved. So
I think this is the smartest move they could do, by the way. I suggested this on my spread show on Tuesday. It's like, if the weather is going to be this bad, Dalton sucks. At least if you use Taysom Hill, you can shorten the game, create a better run approach against a crappy run defense. Just try to grind out a game 10-3 or something.
Yeah, there was another look too that I thought was fun, would be Andy Dalton under half a passing touchdown at plus 130. Because then again in the red zone, they're probably just going to put Taysom in, like for sure. So it would have to be like a long touchdown with given the wind, no Olave, no Landry. Like, where is that going to come from? I mean, I don't know. Plus 130, I thought it would be kind of fun. I don't love touchdown props in general, but worth a look.
Yeah, good sound reasoning behind that one. All right, we touched on that. Pat, back to you for your second play.
Well, I'm going to cross off James Conner, not play that one, and I will go to that same Arizona game and go with an over Tom Brady, over 269.5 passing yards. He is the highest projected passing yard leader of the week for me at 314. Now, the Bucs always do something stupid, like try to run the ball 800 times for no success, but they have to win this game. This game is their cushion, and it's a very winnable game for them. They just need to go back to the dink and dunk. Weirdly, Russell Gage coming back last week kind of, I don't want to say unlocked their offense, but it looked a lot more competent than it has recently. And this is a team that just gave up a whole bunch of passing yards to Brett Rippon. So I think Tom Brady in the short passing game are going to be a very good look on Sunday. And is Arizona the most popular dog of the week? Does that seem that way to you guys?
I mean, 7.5, I get why people would maybe be on it. I think actually Tampa's, I've heard a lot as a pretty popular teaser leg because you can tease through the 7 through the 3. But man, I can't imagine laying actual earned money with on Trace McSorley here.
Yeah, it'd be a tough scene, right?
Yeah. Like you just regret it right away. I mean, that was my handicap for last night's game when we were talking about it on our show on Wednesday. It was like, the Jets is a decent spot, but like, do I want that game to start and for me to have actual money on Zach Wilson? Give me the better quarterback. So I have I took the Jags as a teaser leg, so that's kind of how I did that one. But this is the same premise. Like I don't want to like oversimplify a game handicap to just the quarterback, but man, sometimes I think it's enough.
Well, it's funny because there's one prop I really wanted this week, and I can't find it. Maybe you guys can. I've searched everywhere. I can't find any Marquise Goodwin props.
I don't think he's out yet. Let me see.
Everyone else from that game is out. He's not.
Yeah. Maybe they just wanted to make sure that he was going to be active because he had injury questions.
Yeah, but he's going to be out. Why can't they post the line? Because either he plays or he doesn't.
Yeah, I see nothing on him.
Yeah, he's genuinely questionable. If he plays, he's going to go off in this game.
Yeah. Noah Fant's posted, and he was genuinely questionable as well. So, yeah, it's a good point. We'll probably see him. He probably opens up.
I mean, if he doesn't play, I really need to blow up my lineups on DraftKings.
Yeah, that guy's obviously track fast. We know that. So good spot with Tyler Lockett out of the lineup. I think DK is in a nice spot too. But, as far as DraftKings goes, DK will be very, very popular. So different than game theory that you need to incorporate in the DFS streets for sure. And Pat knows he prints money.
There we go.
Yeah, crush it.
All right. Next one for me. I'm going to go with a tackle. We got Caden Ellis, Saints linebacker, over 7.5 tackles and assists. This is out still on DraftKings at -125, which I think is still very much playable. Ellis has played really well when he got a chance this season in 3 games with Pete Warner out. Warner came back last week. They both played like 60% of the snaps. Warner's back out. So we're going to have Ellis back in an every down role. The 3 games that he had an every down role, 12, 13, and 8. And none of those spots were as favorable as this one for a multitude of reasons. We obviously know the weather concerns here. There is not going to be a lot of forward pass. There is going to be a lot of rushing attempts. Both defenses are terrible against the run anyway, so we're probably going to see a lot of rushing attempts anyway. I way brought down the play volume concerns here just in case we do have 3 plays and a punt. So I'm pretty conservative, and I still have a nice over on Ellis here too. So on the season, linebackers are averaging 23.5 tackles and assists per game against the Browns. It's tied for the most in the league. And then a very advantageous scorekeeper in Cleveland as it pertains to the road team. They are granting 25.3 assists per game, which is about 4.5 more than league average. So we get these linebackers piling up. They're pretty generous in just being like, oh, we'll give a linebacker, an assist on that one. And Ellis, again, just a great spot. It should probably have been 8.5 juice to the over. So we got 7.5 and minus 125 still available. Still think it's a play.
I just bet it.
Love it.
Yeah, I'm riding. I can't officially, tail you on that because I don't know a damn thing about tackle props, but I am 100% in.
It's a good one. It's a good look. Feel good about it. Even if we have 45 plays in that game, Ellis is going to be on the field for every one of them. All right, Connor, back to you for number 3. Reminder too, if you're hanging out with us, it looks like a bunch of you are. Jump in the chat. Let us know if you have any questions for week 16, and we will try to get to some at the end of the show.
Yeah, I'm going to go with an over here. I like Gus Edwards over 35.5 rushing yards. We took it last week. I'm going back to it again. Racked up. He had 55 rushing yards and just 7 carries, despite being in a negative game script. And the big key here was Justice Hill saw a much larger snap share because they were playing from behind. I mean, Tyler Huntley and the Ravens had to throw the ball 30 times, which, I think was, obviously suboptimal there, but they ended up losing the game 13-3. Now near touchdown favorites at home against the Falcons team, 26th in run DVOA and DPA. Winds 15 miles an hour, cold temperatures. I think that they try and skew run heavy here. So I like this over for Gus because I see him getting around 10 carries, 35.5 rushing yards with 10 carries against, a bad run defense. For me, is a no-brainer. I think you can bet both him and Dobbins over because I think the, Ravens have a ton of success on the ground, but I did not want to have too much in one situation there. He was out carried by Dobbins a good bit more last week, but I still think that, when all things are even considered, they want both guys to be heavily involved. And so we've seen that over the past, 2 years at this point. And I think last week was a little bit of a fluke with Dobbins getting 13 carries to his 7. So I see both seeing, 10, maybe 10 to 12 from Gus and 15 to 17 from Dobbins.
Like it, Pat, do you have any leans on the Ravens backfields?
I mean, I obviously I prefer Dobbins, but his number is higher. I have Gus projected 8 carries for 45 yards, so I'm on board.
Love it.
So I'm going back to that Carolina game. Love that game for whatever reason. DJ Moore, over 53.5 receiving yards. The Lions, like the Panthers and like the Jets, are beat up over the middle of the field. And what we've been seeing with Sam Darnold under center for the Panthers in those 3 weeks is with DJ Moore playing an increased slot percentage, moving from the outside to the inside to create these easy passes. And we know his target share with PJ Walker and Sam Darnold has just spiked so far this season. He's basically their only good player at this point. So get him the ball as often as possible. And he even just sneaks downfield a lot of the time too, and just standing there wide open. And I think the Lions defense is improved, but I don't think it's good by any means. So this just seems like a really low barrier for someone who's probably going to garner 35 to 45% of his team's market share as an underdog at home. Seems like a fantastic spot.
I like it quite a bit. Actually, it's on my list. The way I was going to go was his reception number just before we got on here, I think opened at 4.5 at plus money, which I like quite a bit too, because I think it, even if he doesn't, on DraftKings, plus 130 over 4.5 receptions. So I like both those plays. As you mentioned, for all the reasons that you said, just slot receivers against the Lions there. Connors is not typically a play that you make, but any DJ Moore thoughts? We did talk about Sam Darnold a little bit. He's been not good, and not from a fantasy perspective, but he hasn't turned the ball over. His completion percentage over expectation is positive 7% in his 3 starts. He's been accurate, taking care of the ball, not fumbling, not turning it over, and DJ Moore has been his guy.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think it's a solid look. I don't have any reason to dispute it. It's just not something I've normally played, and I hate tying myself to these garbage quarterbacks. I know he's been playing better, but Pat looks pissed. You a big Sam Darnold guy? I didn't know this
No,
about
yeah, actually, he is the subject of my favorite Reddit thread, but that's about it.
I missed that one. Give me the elevator version.
No, it is r/the_Darnold, and you can just go on it and you can see for yourself.
This looks fun.
He's not the Donald, he's the Darnold. And
big difference.
Man, they had to stop the steal last week. If you only counted Carolina's points, he won in a landslide.
Oh no! All right, I'm definitely gonna have to check this out. It's gonna be fun.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome. And then we also got someone, one of our listeners, DJ Moore head-to-head -20.5 receiving yards versus DJ Chark, who you like under, Pat.
Woo, love that.
That's a great bet.
Where's that at?
Looks like, they have some of those at DraftKings, so I would assume it's there. I don't really see those other places, but appreciate the input there. That's a great look, I think.
All right, third one for me. This one is moved. Let me make sure I get the best number that is out there. It is moved against where I played it. Davante Adams is criminally mispriced. Over 5.5 receptions for Davante Adams. It's available on Rivers. It's available on Points Bets. It is moved to a juiced 4.5 on Caesars, DraftKings, and MGM, which is just wild to me. I think it's an overreaction. We're getting a discount. Obviously, two bad performances, two not great performances in tough matchups. Last week against New England, they went out of their way. They double teamed him. I was reading Pat Kareem's work this morning, like double the rates that he had seen in any other game this season. Just kind of bracket coverage a ton. He still saw 9 targets in there, but again, just caught 4 of them for a 44% catch rate, significantly lower than his season mark of 61%. The week before, really good starts against the Rams and Jalen Ramsey. That is actually the only time this season that Jalen Ramsey has truly shadowed an opposing wide receiver. So I think he had 4, like 71 yards and almost all of it in the first half. But again, just his season mark, 61% catch rate, 8 targets per game, even in the bad games. He'd been averaging 13.4 before. I'm not really worried. We saw part-time work for both Darren Waller and Hunter Renfrow. I think Waller's season increase here. But these are not – he's playing the Steelers. They have struggled to stop all receivers this season. We don't have really any weather concerns. It's going to be cold at night in Pittsburgh on Saturday, but not any real wind issues here. 5.5 receptions for Davante Adams at plus money is, I think, a fantastic look. I think it's just an overreaction to 2 bad matchups. We just need him to basically do his season average in terms of catch rates and targets, and he gets there. And I think this is a better than average matchup. So, Pat, what are your thoughts on Adams?
I mean, that sounds Davante to get 6 catches in a game at plus money. Just blindly bet it, and I think you're up a lot of money.
Yeah, that was kind of what I was stunned, and now I'm surprised I bet it at plus 100. Saw it move to plus 115, and I was like, "What in the world are we doing?" It's moved so much, it's taken enough that DraftKings moved it off to 5.5, and now it's a juiced 4.5. Connor, any thoughts?
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, this is the lowest receiving and reception line that I think we've seen for Davante Adams in 5 years. Since he was didn't break out with the Packers. I don't know. I mean, this is literally the lowest line that I've ever seen for him. So I wasn't initially interested, but I mean, at this point, I think this is a good look. 5.5 plus 125 at FanDuel on the over. I mean, is there any way that we see even a 4.5 at 150 or if it keeps moving down there, I'll lay the juice. I hate laying juice on overs. And I think this is could be an awesome look.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Also, weather concerns do not matter in this game. The wind's gonna be 12 miles per hour. It doesn't mean shit. It'll be cold, not that cold. They'll be fine.
Yeah, it's minus 165 as the juice on the over 4.5 at DraftKings.
Yeah, that's a lot, but I mean, it's 5 catches.
I'd so much rather just pay, get the 5.5 and get plus money on that at a different book. So, yeah. And then again, maybe it takes a little bit of action here. I would jump into it if you see, if you're listening later and you see that move back. I just think it's a bad number and overreaction to 2 tough matchups. So, all right, Connor, bring us home with your last play or any other ones that you're considering you want to talk about.
Yeah, one that I think both of us like here, as I took Tyler Algier under 57.5 rushing yards. We took it 56. Looks like FanDuel's floating at 57.5. Generally, him and Cordell Patterson a split work. Last week, he obviously crushed. So we're seeing the highest line of the season for Tyler Algier. Now matching against the Ravens, 6 run DVOA, 3rd in explosive rush rate allowed. I just think this is a pretty good opportunity here to kind of like, zig when others zag, in this spot here where Algier I expect to be pretty popular, and I get it. Like, he's going to see a lot of work, but I also think that the Ravens are able to slow down Desmond Ridder, who also looked horrible last week. So, like, this is another one of those spots where it could be a run, pass, punt, where they're not able to do a whole lot. And maybe Algier sees 10 carries, maybe he sees 12 carries with him and Patterson, kind of splitting work there. But for him to get to 60 yards, he has to be efficient. I think this is kind of like a lowered expectation on the matchup perspective, and you could see less work than normal with the Ravens, as I already talked about. Probably, I think they're gonna, eviscerate the clock, like literally run the ball like 30 times here and just melt the clock. So in this spot, I think the under is a solid look here.
Yeah, I jumped in there with you too. I thought we saw just unsustainable efficiency last week, and I think we do see some run punt stuff here in Baltimore. In Baltimore, the best since they made the Roquan Smith trade, the best run defense, actually by a significant margin, on the ground. So EPA, DVOA, basically any meaningful metric, this is the best current iteration rushing defense in the league. So, Pat, any thoughts on the Falcons running backs?
Yeah, they're not good.
It's true.
They performed adequately a week ago. I would just expect, with the way that the Falcons were running their offense earlier this year, that their rushing game would be more effective with the threat of Mariota taking off all the time. It seems like they're not really unleashing everything Ridder could potentially be able to do on the ground. At least they didn't last week. Maybe it's a change this week, but I don't feel like this is the defense you want to try that out against.
Yeah, no, I agree. How about you, Pat? What's the last empty your clip here? What's on the list?
Well, I almost went with Fields over 74.5 rushing yards because that has like a 90% win rate this year. But I don't know. It's a very high number. I'm going to feel stupid. I'll just play. He's my favorite quarterback on DraftKings, so I'll just limit it to that.
We were talking about that one on our other show this week too, about how like the narrative around them wanting to push, I guess in the press conferences, both Eberflus and Fields has talked about how close he is to the rushing record. I think it's ridiculous for them to do that, but I also understand, like, good for that kid, like, celebrate. He's been awesome. So apparently they want to go for that. At least they're like, it's the elephant in the room and they're talking about it. So it's definitely over or nothing if you're looking at the Fields market.
It's over or nothing anyway, because either he hits an over or he like gets hurt.
It's true.
Yeah.
He's awesome to watch.
I am going to continue with my like low threshold slot receiver type things. This one scares me a little bit, but all of my numbers point to it. Matchup numbers, simulation numbers. Curtis Samuel over 29.5 receiving yards against the Niners. Again, 2 great corners on the outside for the Niners, a bit weaker towards the interior. Have to get the ball out quickly. Who's standing there wide open 7 yards down the field? It's Curtis Samuel.
Yeah, I thought we might see this here. You mentioned maybe a little bit of pro Commanders thoughts here, and that Samuel could be involved. Yeah, low A stuff, but that's a pretty low threshold for him to get over. Connor, any
please do not tell the government about my pro commie thoughts this week.
Any Samuel thoughts off the top of your head, Connor?
No, they posted a rushing yard prop for him again at like 13 or something like that, which I thought was a stay away.
We had 7.5 a couple weeks ago.
Yeah,
yeah, 7.5 was a good look. He got there at the very end.
Oh yeah, very, very end. Yeah.
We were watching together, and he had like a 9-yard run, and they called it back for holding, and I was just going nuts because I thought he got it, and then he came back, so I was like, oh, it's gonna lose. And then they went to overtime, and he hit on like literally in overtime. So I got super lucky there, ran pure. But yeah, I think the Samuel look here, the receiving is good. It was strange. I was like, usage just like died mid-season basically, and now like at least in the passing game, and now hopefully they kind of revitalize it here because it is a pretty solid matchup.
He was a Wentz guy as opposed to a Heineke guy, because all of the easy receptions that he was getting earlier on in the season, that's really before. I mean, Dotson was more of a factor in the red zone, but he wasn't commanding as much of an overall share of the passing attempts as we saw. But Wentz would dump it off to Samuel, where Heineke just runs those.
Yeah, that's a good call. Point. Yeah, I like that. Any other stuff that you're waiting on, Pat, that you want to?
It's really just Marquise Goodwin. Like, I took a look at Isaiah Hodgins over 36.5 receiving yards in that game. Pacheco over 69.5. I think they're just going to run all over Seattle. Latavius, his over, but those were too wishy-washy for me. They were like 56th percentile plays, and unless something I have rated at like 65% or better, I'm not betting it.
Yep, get it. All right, I have a tackle to finish, and I'll give you some other tackles that I'm going to be looking for here. Denzel Perryman's not out yet, linebacker for the Raiders. This game, and I think he's going to be hung at 7.5 would be my guess. And if the juice is reasonable, I would take the over. The game's in Pittsburgh. It's the best place in the league for assists. Steeler home games averaging 52 assists per game, which leads the league comfortably. And they're equally split. They're not like New England, for example, which we'll get to in a moment, gives a lot of assists to the Patriots, and it is very, very stingy to the visiting team. The Steelers are, yes, not surprising at all. Although I made the case the other day, we were talking about this, you would think maybe from like a negotiation standpoint, they would do it the other way. So they could be like, well, you only had 60 tackles because they actually want to like help contract negotiations. But instead they stuff their own guys' pockets there. Linebackers averaging 23.3 tackles and assists per game against the Steelers, which is tied for the second most in the league. And they've actually still, regardless of who's been a quarterback, been run first, even against terrible defenses. So I think Perryman is a really good look if he's at 7.5. I have an under that I'm waiting for if they post Michael Walker, who's a linebacker for the Falcons. He even last week was at 8.5, and he basically lost his job. He's playing like 40% of the snaps. So even if they post him at like 6.5, because he's been like regularly 7.5, 8.5 every week. Troy Anderson, second round pick from Wyoming, has basically replaced him as the number 2 there. So I'm hoping they just kind of continue to post Walker blindly like they have been. Under will be a nice little look there. And then my other one that I'm going to play that just came out just before we started is Jawan Bentley, New England linebacker. This is out there at 7.5. It was plus money. It's still minus 105, I think, on DraftKings. He is the only New England linebacker that is even really close to an every down role, like 85, 90% snap share. And as I mentioned, only Atlanta gives out more assists to the home team than the Patriots do. But we've actually had Bentley back-to-back weeks on the road get 10 tackles. So 9 or more in 3 of the past 4 home games. It's a great matchup against Cincinnati due to their play volume, due to their pace of play. They've actually, even though they are massively pass-heavy, they still face the 6th highest rate of linebacker tackles on the season. So not all that stuff is like deep down the field. They still will run because they just end up having a lot of plays. And I think they have success in this game against New England's defense, who I don't think is nearly as good as any advanced metric will tell you. So Jawan Bentley over 7.5 is a great look still out there. And not the best of the number, but still good. It's at minus 105.
Plus 110 at Bet365.
Love it.
Nice.
Yeah.
You need
That's what we got on DraftKings.
365 Noonan. I know you can ladder your tackle props. Caden Ellis ladders. I mean, I'm all in on this, but Caden Ellis guy, by the way.
Yeah, and we need 365. I need a New Jersey or a Canadian proxy for the ladders, because especially these we hit last week. Rayshawn Jenkins was 4.5. He had 9 at the half. He finished with 18 tackles. We have some subscribers in Discord.
What's the most you think Ellis can get? The highest you can play him. What do you think the chances of him getting over 10 or more tackles are?
He's had 3 games this season in the role. He's had 13, 12, and 8.
So plus 240 is pretty good for 10.
Yeah. The only concern would be play volume in that game. But again, even if they run 45 plays, which is insanely low, they're going to be like massively run heavy, right? And again, the advantageous scorekeeper stuff. So there's a lot of like outs baked into even a low projected play volume for Ellis.
I like it.
Yeah, I need 365. Like that's
love it. I have one that I want to talk with you guys. I was briefly discussing with Noonan before. So Derrick Henry right now, you mentioned that there are multiple guys who could threaten for 200 rushing yards in this spot. I know this is like the most freezing take in the industry right now. I'm a little worried about the Titans offensive line. I mean, they're trotting out bums. Like, do you guys even know any of these guys? Like, I mean, they're on backups for all of them, which may not even matter, but like,
I think starting Willis mitigates that a bit.
I agree with that.
Okay.
That'd be my take.
Like they were like they made the Bears look pass heavy in the Willis starts this year. Like negative 40% pass rate over expectation. Like just insane. Like 11 attempts in one game that he played the entire game. Like it just is a wild scene. Again, rushing quarterbacks too obviously help bolster because you have to account for him a little bit. So
Like,
I'm with Pat.
They won't even release Derrick Henry rushing attempt props.
No.
Like,
Which is
what would you set that at? Like if they said it was 25.5, would you take the over or the under?
over probably. I was thinking like 26.5, something like 27.5, honestly.
God, that's so high.
I think he gets to 30.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was sweating out Derrick Henry rushing attempt under last week, and it got there by the hook. But it was the least fun sweat. I'm certainly not taking the under at 109.5 rushing yards. But what about Malik Willis? 125.5 passing yards. I mean, that
Feels high.
Feels high. I mean, but the Texans, they do suck. So that's the issue. But like, how is this going to work? It'd have to be like a screen. He had screen to Chig that was like a 60-yard touchdown, and he still didn't even get there. Or whatever it was.
Well, I mean, they will 3 times in this game play action air it out.
Oh yeah.
They did that to Kansas City on the very first drive. It was like, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
And Willis's arm is giant.
For sure. And they didn't have, Pat knows Treylon Burks sucks. They didn't have Treylon Burks in any of the earlier Willis games. It was just, Bobby Trees. So maybe that helps at least take the lid off, if nothing else. But yeah, I mean, Connor, your take that the offensive line is terrible is spot on. But I don't know that it matters. And I kind of agree with Pat. I think the Willis thing kind of helps alleviate that.
That Treylon Burks take is not looking good for me.
There's no one else there, though, so we'll see. I mean, if he's going to be tied to Malik Willis for the next year or two, you might be correct. Just took the wrong route to get there.
What about like a Malik Willis completions under, like a pass attempt under? I mean, what's going to be like 12 completions, 10 completions? Like, I mean, it's going to be unbelievably low. They probably won't even set one, to be honest.
I mean, all I did was just I was going to bet Tennessee at -5, and then they were -3. So I was like, perfect. I mean, Malik Willis already beat the Texans by 7 earlier this year in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get why, because Houston played 2 competitive games the past 2 weeks. That's great for them and everything.
Yeah.
The Titans are just going to run 90 times and beat them.
Yeah, I mean, that is by far the worst rush defense in the league. They have, you don't hear a lot of, we bet a lot of tackle safeties or safety tackles for the Texans. We don't touch their linebackers because the safeties get so many opportunities because the linebackers are terrible. So that's why we jam Jalen Petrie and Jonathan Owens, because they get a lot of chances every week. No one stops anyone in front of them. So we'll probably look at Petrie again because he'll have a lot of opportunities this week. But yeah, I don't know what the too high number is. I wish the books would have tested it, because 105 or 106 is still probably too low. They got to be hoping for an injury to get even on that one, because I think the public's going to hammer Derrick Henry over the next couple of 48 hours, 24 hours, or whatever. So, all right, working in an hour, we'll look to get some thoughts from some folks here in the chat. Let's see. Thanks for starring these. I don't know if that's you, Sal, or Connor, but appreciate that. Brian wants to talk about Ramondre Stevenson over 4. I'm guessing maybe that's receptions, plus 130 on DraftKings. Any thoughts on that?
It sounds about right.
Lean over probably, but I mean, I don't know. This game is tough because I think that with how cold it is, that could, these teams particularly with Zach Taylor just being such a boomer, and then Bill Belichick or Matt Patricia, whoever's running the show in New England, just being like, it's cold, we're running the ball, even though the Bengals have a good run defense. Patriots have been relatively good against other opposing running backs. We could just see a 10-7 game, but if the Bengals pass, I mean, they're going to, obliterate the Pat secondary, I think. So I don't know. I go back and forth on that game. I think that as that relates to Ramondre, if we see the Patriots throw, or when we see them throw, I think that Ramondre will probably see a lot of work, but like you said, 4 is probably about right. Yeah.
I mean, plus money helps too with this price, but interesting to see if because minimal workload, not minimal, but he got a lot of touches last week. So they obviously felt okay about him being in there, but definitely a lower snap rate than we've seen as of late. So I like the plus money. It'd probably be a lean over, but not a official play for me. Let's see. Next, our guy, Cool HXXS, he's in our Discord, wants to know how to approach the Taysom Hill play. Bet anytime touchdown, rushing the receiver, total yards. Do we still like it now that it's moved? Again, we pushed out 35.5. Let me see where we're at. Looks like it's
go for it.
Good.
I was going to say, I have a fun one that I tried to play on DraftKings that I got limited to $1.20. So I can't give this out officially, but for anyone who is not limited at DraftKings, him to score a touchdown and to have 55 rushing yards is like plus 800 or something like that. So, you could certainly do worse. If they use him at all anymore, like I think he could easily just annihilate that. So, if you want to put get more than $1, I think it's worth it just for fun.
I saw that also on PointsBet because when we pushed the PointsBet play or the DraftKings play at 35.5, a subscriber notified us that PointsBet had it at 25.5. So I went ahead and ensured that my PointsBet account is not going to be usable moving forward. Again, I will give them some golf business. So that usually I think helps soften account limits at times. You bet outright golf winners at places, they tend to not limit you so much on some other stuff that I've found. I taste them still 37.5 out there. I don't know. I don't know what's your balking point, Connor, like where you would kind of stop and hesitate.
I don't know. I would kind of want to see a couple more reports. We'll probably get like some other like national reporters kind of trailing on like, oh yeah, we're actually going to see half the game of Taysom, but I think that's probably what we're going to see regardless. So I don't know, like 42 probably is where it's at FanDuel now. I think it's still a good look.
Yeah,
there.
It's 40.5 at some places now.
Yeah, I think it's still solid, to be honest. That's about right. Like we're probably looking at like he had 7 carries last week. We're probably looking at like 10 to 12 in this spot. So, I mean, 40 yards is nothing on 10 carries against Cleveland.
Yeah, I'm still good with it. IG, thanks for the love. Love this damn prop show. My favorite on YouTube. Thank you. We appreciate that. Tell your friends. Props are fun. You can do it in a communal sense. You're not competing. It's nothing better than winning bets together. So thanks for sharing. Let's see what else we got here. Lucas, what do you guys think about Darius Slayton? Hung at 51.5 receiving yards, over 20.5 longest reception. Pat had it 3 weeks ago. We hung him last week at 45.5. He did not get there. He must have tripped over himself. Any thoughts on going back again? He's in the dome against Minnesota. Bad pass defense. Pat, any thoughts on going back to the well? You mentioned Hodgins, so you might be on that passing game a little bit.
I am actually, especially if this is catch-up mode. Slayton's a guy I would play ladders on this week on the Giants. Yeah. Either he gets there or he doesn't. And when he gets there, it's usually not by a yard. It's by 40 yards. So I would try to look at like some sort of alt spread to cover your ass a little bit. Like if you want to take it straight up, I like the over. I have that rated as a good play. But if you wanted to play, let me try to find it here. That is, where is that stupid game? Giants. The ladder's on him right now to look it up. So much easier to do on my phone. Who would have thought? Receiving yards, milestones. There we are. Where are we at? Darius Slayton. Over 75 yards is only plus 230. So they think it's going to happen.
Yeah. Because I remember mentioning it last week too. So now he's done it like 59.5 or 59 in 6 of the past 8 weeks. Tough spot. The only time he missed it against the Eagles, he missed it last week against the Commanders. But most of them were not even right around 60. They were mid 80s and 70s. So to Pat's point, he had when he goes over, he is over comfortably often.
For sure. Yeah, so I mean that was 2 good defenses the past 2 weeks, and he had done it previously against Washington, the OT game at 90, 63, 86, 95, 66. He's usually well over it if he's over it. And when you see his long, outside of last week, his long reception was 7 yards. Previous to that, 37, 55, 44, 24, 54. It might just take one.
A couple others real quick. Craig's mentioning that Taysom 43.5 on FanDuel. Yeah, it's all kind of in that same pocket. Don't mind anyone doing that. John wants to know our thoughts on Tyler Boyd, 3.5 receptions. Plus money is nice, but he's the 4th receiving option in that offense when Hayden Hurst is
Hayden
active.
Hurst ruled out.
He's out.
Oh, is he? Okay. Yep. Well, so that helps him a little bit, but again, it's like a 3-4% jump. It's still not a play for me.
I agree. Not a play.
Yep.
Kevin wants to know about Kamara rushing attempts over. I mean, they seem to not just want to bang that guy They like the David Johnson stuff last week was alarming.
Is it that he's not good anymore?
It might be.
I don't know.
He's a small dude. Like I know that they all have like a odometer on like carries, but maybe he's just as smaller than others because of his size. Maybe he's just.
I thought last week he was a perfect opportunity to crush, and then they're rolling out Dusty David Johnson like 7 or 8 times. Like he should have had like 120 rushing yards. Instead, he had like 80. Just because they're rolling out David Johnson for 7 or 8 carries, who's like we know sucks.
Yeah. Matt asking about James Conner. We touched on it earlier. Conner is on the play. Pat likes it as well. I have volume concerns, but I think that their handicap is really good. And I think that's a little bit better than even the number that Conner pushed it out at. So guys definitely lean Conner under. It's not an overplay for me. I worry that they won't be able to do anything with the forward pass. Therefore, Conner could get a just absolute shit ton of touches here. Last one, Domo. Shout out Domo, a subscriber for us. Thoughts on Watson's passing yards. Leaning under, wondering if the better look elsewhere. Is looking for one of those fan or Prize Picks 6-legger. Obviously, we know that there are weather concerns. To Pat's point, don't double count. It's baked into the number because the number is like what, 150?
147.
147. Do you have any thoughts, Connor?
I mean, I love QB unders, and I can't do this. This is just too low. I mean, like, because though they have enough talent, like Amari Cooper, or DPJ, or Njoku, they could certainly throw like a 2-yard pass and like break a tackle or two and run for 40, 50 yards. That's the thing is like wind just slows down big passes. Like if there's no wind in this game, his number is probably like 215. Like 210. Like I mean, I think in this spot it's already accounted for. So yeah, don't double count. Just kind of maybe avoid it.
I got one for you on Prize Picks. Andy Dalton, under 135 passing yards.
I like it.
Oh, yeah.
No problem with the unders there.
Considering he might not be playing, that doesn't seem bad.
Yeah. And he'll take a snap. He'll play enough that you get to count it. Because, he's not going to be benched, but he can be, they could do what Texans have been doing of late, mixing in guys on different series and doing stuff like that. Katie, you get the last one. Gabe Davis, under 36.5.
I like David.
Yeah, I mean, I get the weather concerns there, but like the big playability is a little scary. Connor, any thoughts on Gabe?
I mean, you can't do it because the Bears are like horrible, and so like one play, it's just one play. I would take receptions under. I think that's a fine look, but because I don't think there's gonna be a ton of pass volume, but that's something we actually didn't touch on. I think that like the Bills here could absolutely annihilate the Bears through the air if they want to, but it just depends on whether they want to or if it's too cold because it's supposed to be like negative 11 degrees at kickoff, like real feel.
So remember the Mac game last year in Buffalo when it was massively winning and the Patriots attempted 3 passes? The Bills still threw the ball around in that game. So like the Bills have proven even in really bad scenarios that they're comfortable leaning on Uncle Rico's arm. They want to like get pushed through that winds. That's why they drafted him, right? Like he can play in the bad weather of Buffalo. They threw a bunch last week. So I'm not like really scared about overreacting to the Buffalo passing game because they've shown in the past that they're willing to continue to chuck it. So, all right, good stuff as always. Pat, where can everyone find your stuff?
You say me or Connor?
We know where Connor can find. We can find Connor stuff. I want to know your stuff. Or if I was interrupting you because you had something else you wanted to share, go for it.
Yeah, well, you brought up Uncle Rico. He's just having a really nice run on White Lotus right now.
I'm trying to encourage Connor to watch. He has not watched White Lotus. He told me
I did actually watch. I watched the second season with Maggie. So
okay.
I finished season 2 last night.
It was solid. It was better actually. I had more appreciation for it. I thought season 1 sucked. I thought season 2 was pretty good.
Okay, Pat, real quick, has there been anything worse than Mariah's draft on the challenge?
It's tough look.
Tough look. Change the whole dynamic of that.
You got to have some size.
Yeah, I know Jordan is got that dog in him, but like, whoo, rough scene. So I finally caught up, so I wanted to get your reaction to that. I was behind a few episodes.
Okay, I don't know if we've talked about this, but if I gave you right now, of everyone left on the cast, who do you think the youngest person is, and how old are they?
Nerese could be young.
Okay.
20.
Yes. What's the age?
26.
Chauncey is 23 years old.
Wow. Okay. I could see that.
I thought he was like 40.
Yeah. Because she's older.
She's like 35, I think.
Oh, wow. Good for Chauncey. Yeah. I mean, or maybe not. She's running up on her prime here. So, yeah.
Shots fired.
Yeah. Sorry.
Mayo Media Network, by the way.
Love it. Did you give out all the money from Tampa?
Yeah, we gave out the last $1,000 today on the Pat Mayo Experience. We did our full DraftKings breakdown for the main slate and the Christmas slate, Tambo and I. So that's like an hour and a half long, going through the different stacks that you can build up. Christmas Day, Cuss Corner 40, a very custy Christmas, drops. And then Monday, already recorded, ready to go. By the time you wake up, Feinberg, Mayo, golf, season preview. We're back.
Love it. Can't wait. Good stuff as always. Connor, props coming from you. What else is on your docket for the next couple of days before you leave this cold weather and head to Mexico?
Yeah, props. I need to Christmas shop. I've slacked. We're 2 days out and I still am missing presents. Pretty embarrassing. But very on brand. So I'll get that shit done, get it done well, but just a day out.
All right. Tough scene, Connor. You get married now. You got to tighten that ship up a little bit.
Yeah, I messed up.
Yeah. Well, you're all right. You got some time. At least it's a nice day to be outside gallivanting along the city's streets of Chicago.
And no one will be there too. No one is last minute shopping.
No.
You're good.
Yeah. And this, Chicago's generally quiet, so it'll be fine.
Yeah, you're making me really excited. This is going to be a great next few hours, boys.
So good stuff as always. Don't forget to check out everything on the Mayo Media Network. And again, subscribe here to the 4for4 YouTube page. Again, lots of other great content here. We would love for you to share that with your friends. So for Pat and Connor, I'm Ryan. We'll see you all next week. Have a good holiday, everyone.